unfolding. And Leo, during the break, you were telling me Putin just flew in to meet the Pope yesterday on July 4th, who the different factions are and what's really happening.
Well, he was actually sending a message to Trump by flying into Rome and visiting the Pope. Because, you see, the Pope is this very powerful figure at the moment that is more of a political figure than a religious one. And is supporting all the way whatever the Democrats are doing or whatever the left wing is doing. So Putin himself has a dark agenda, which people tend to forget. The fact that the KGB infiltrated back in the days so many seminaries and had approximately 7,000 agents that infiltrated the Catholic Church, and they didn't stop their operation, which is to destroy the Catholic faith and reduce it to what we see nowadays, which is basically a liberal theology nightmare full of communist, perverse, pedophiles running around and wanting illegal immigrants so they can take their children and bring them in their pedophilia rings. It's a complete nightmare. And so the fact that they met on the 4th of July was to send a message to America. Well, we receive your message, dear elite, dear Jesuits, and we are not scared. That's what will be our answer, because after what we saw yesterday in Washington, D.C., we are definitely not scared.
But let's be clear, there are a lot of great Catholics, a lot of great people, like a lot of great Republicans or great Protestants.
Catholics have nothing to do with the Pope. The Pope.
I say it's different factions. So explain.
So, yeah, I mean there is factions in the Catholic Church, and Raymond Burke, for example, heads one, a more conservative faction, traditionalist.
We've had all these American cardinals come out and say you can't let Islam take over Europe. Yeah, you can't have borders here.
But the moment in which you even mentioned that, for example, I just cited the words of Raymond Burke against Muslim immigration, I got blocked for 30 days on Facebook. So just for citing the words of a cardinal. I mean, it's quite incredible. But that demonstrates what they're doing. They have taken over the Catholic Church, and it's not the Church of Jesus anymore.
Exactly. And it's just like the universities are anti-free speech now and are hellholes. I mean, that's what the left takes everything over. And everything they take over, they use sex cult operations. Explain that, because it's how they compromise people.
Well, we saw the Bishop of Santa Fe bringing these illegal immigrants through.
Yeah, let's roll some of that video while he talks. This happened last week. Bishop of Santa Fe illegally bringing people across.
Defiant of U.S. laws. I mean, why nobody's doing anything? I mean, if you are a bishop, here in America, in 1776, there was the separation of church and state also. So we should do something about it. Don't you think, Alex? I mean...
Absolutely. Well, I mean... I saw that video last week. We played it. Here he is bringing thousands of people across. Boom, breaking the border to tell the whole world, rush us.
And, of course, the victims are always the same, the children that are exploited. And nowadays we find more and more children at the border who are not really with their real parents, but with people who take them along so they can pass through more easily. They get immediately inserted in pedophile rings. The exploitation of children today also by the LGBT community that just received a few days ago, Alex, the LGBT community received, one organization, a very powerful organization, received $700,000 by the U.S. Bishop Conference. How is that possible? Why is the U.S., and they have this Jesuit called James Martin, who is like pro-LGBT all the way, and he is involved in it. So why is this U.S. Bishop Conference giving money to the LGBT community? LGBTQ, or however you want to call it. I mean, with all the respect, the Catholic Church should be helping the poor, should be helping all those homeless people that we see flooding the cities. I mean, does the LGBTQ community need the money of the
Absolutely.
Catholic? I don't think so.
And again, here it is. Texas bishop escorts Central American migrants across border bridge to protest U.S. policy, and they just let him do it. I mean, this is the incredible arrogance. Let's go back to constitutional lawyer Robert Barnes. You can see it. World government, the UN, the Vatican.
As a lawyer, maybe you can explain us how.
Organizing the collapse of the borders, telling us we've got to pay for everybody once they get here. Beto O'Rourke campaigning in Mexico for president with illegals. You can see the plan to break the U.S. up, just like the UN said they would do, Barnes.
No doubt. I mean, for example, to show sort of how things are aligned or what allegiance is there, the Southern Poverty Law Center is involved in legal action against people who exposed the various church activities that were engaged in illicit criminal activities and helping illegal immigrants access the country and avoid detection. And even though so here someone is doing their lawful duty, reporting criminal behavior that happens to involve members of a local of the church, and they are the ones targeted for legal action, and they I mean, to date, they haven't been able to find counsel to defend them because of the problems they face, and they don't have lots of money or means. So that's just one example. If we look at another example of this sort of effort to be anti-patriotic and the threats that Trump faces, you look at Google yesterday, just couldn't put up Betsy Ross's flag all day. They couldn't even put up any American flag all day when they usually always celebrate whatever holiday it is.
They showed baseball.
Exactly. They showed baseball instead, which is also a great America tradition, but there's no reason not to include the American flag from which baseball comes from. But they couldn't do it. And you have people like Congresswoman Omar, who celebrated Somalian Independence Day, but wouldn't celebrate American Independence Day. So that's the sort of mindset and mentality. And as we were talking about with the European Union yesterday, what you're seeing in the United States is going to the question that Leo asked, why isn't there more effort by democratic cities, by the Catholic Church, by the political left to do something for the people that are homeless in the United States, instead of doing what Austin is doing, which is encouraging and incentivizing homelessness by legalizing it in a wide range of locations all across the city. The reason is very simple. They want disruption. They want chaos. They want to justify denationalizing police forces and creating sort of a globalized structure, an EU police and army structure in the European Union, something equivalent here in the United States.
That's right. Overrun the borders, break them, and then demand a continental security perimeter for the North American Union, which is in their own documents. They said we'll use migrant waves, disease, and economic collapse to force it on the U.S. and Europe. And now I'm glad you brought that up because you're in another studio. Coming back, I'm going to show the local newscast saying Austin is adopting something stronger than Portland or stronger than Seattle or San Francisco or L.A., saying they can sleep in your front yard, that homeless from the world come here, everything's free. Then Democrats own the places that get the federal and state money, only get part of the homeless. They make money off each homeless person. This is insane until you realize a larger game plan, Robert.
Oh, exactly. And it all relates to things like the citizenship question. So I think the president actually does have a solution to that. Of a variety of legal scholars, and including a Texas law professor, Josh Blackman, who is friends with mine. We've recommended a proposal to the president that I think the president can take that actually will make sure the citizenship question is included, because constitutionally under the 14th Amendment, it has to be included in order to enforce the 14th Amendment rights of states all across the country. So hopefully that will actually happen and occur, but it's all part of the same species. Trying to destroy America is part of trying to destroy nationalism, trying to destroy borders so that power is no longer localized.
That's it. It's simple. Multinational corporations that think they're too big for their britches coming in and taking over your country and buying off your politicians. It's real simple. And these idiots are like, yay, free stuff. This multinational secret Chi-Com-funded consortium tells me they're going to give me free stuff once, and the Democrats are all one-upping each other. Everything's free. Homes, tuition, money, education, it's all free. Who pays for it?
And by pushing inside America more and more South Americans who are Catholics, that means that they are incentivizing their own electorate, their own show.
Let's be clear, leftist Catholics.
Yeah, but they're all, nowadays, the Catholic Church is in the hands of a Pope that is communist. That's it. You know, there is no real opposition, because even Raymond Burke was punished by the Pope and sent to a remote island when he was...
No, it's true. The Antichrist has captured the Catholic Church, and every Catholic I know understands that. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Of arrogance and what they're going to ban next. The Betsy Ross flag of the abolitionist lady saying it's racist. In fact, I have a news clip I want to play and then get both our guests' take on that. Here is a clip from the news with one of the usual suspect Democrats saying that this is a horrible person. Betsy Ross is a slave master when she was actually an abolitionist. This is just incredible. Here it is.
And where there's a different type of sensitivity and sensibility about race.
Yeah, well, you know, and I was glad to see that. And my hope is that they didn't just do it to do it, that they understand the significance there. And look, there are a lot of things in our history that are still very painful. The Confederate flag that still flies in some places and is used as a symbol. And I believe that we need to move toward an inclusive America that understands that pain, that doesn't wipe it away from history in the sense that it still belongs in a museum or we need to read about it and understand the significance, because that's how you learn and make sure that we don't make the same mistakes in the future, but does not glorify it, does not celebrate it. And
well, I mean, that is the most amazing statement from Julian Castro. This is the same guy that just said a week ago in the debates that we need tranny men, trans men, to be able to have abortions. They don't have uteruses. And now he goes, oh, you can have this flag in a museum, the original American flag made by an abolitionist.
But you can't glorify it. I mean, it's insane. Think about what this guy's saying. I mean...
Well, we have to exercise these symbols or we'll lose it. And again, I'm going to do a special broadcast today just on the Caitlin Bennett article. I'm staying here till 6 now. We're going live till 7. I'm doing 1 hour on the Caitlin Bennett article, newswars.com, infowars.com. Whole hour on it, because we're going to talk about it. We're going to show it to you. It's at summit.news. It's just next level. Robert Barnes?
Well, I mean, the reason why InfoWars is targeted is for the same reason that all these sort of anti-American activities are taking place by people like Congressman Castro, by people like Congresswoman Omar, by people like AOC. It's people who really don't love and believe in America because it's the greatest resistance to the efforts that they're trying to do. So InfoWars is America. InfoWars is Americana. InfoWars is Independence Day. InfoWars is July 4th because it reflects and represents Americana at its core, not just protects it, defends it, as it does on a day-to-day basis. That's why they obsessively hate over InfoWars. That's why it's not a surprise they're trying to ban Caitlin Bennett from even showing a shirt that's a pro-American shirt, that just because it has a correlation with InfoWars, because in the minds of the cultural, social, political, big tech, oligarchic elite left, they believe America is the idea of America, the spirit of America, is the great threat to their ideas of globalism and global ideals and ideals that remove local little d democratic power, which they have been trying to take away really for centuries. I mean, the American experiment was radical and was revolutionary. We had been used to being dominated by elites for thousands of years, elites that had corrupted aspects of the Catholic Church, that led to the Inquisition and other atrocities, that also had led to royalty being ruled by someone that's 5 years old simply because they're the product of some incestual relationship between some royal families. That was how the world was ruled for almost 2,000 years until America came along. And it's the idea of America, the spirit of America. President Trump talked about America forever, no matter what. And I believe what he meant was the spirit of America will be here forever. They can't crush it. They can't kill it. They can't destroy it. They can't wipe it out. Just as the idea of InfoWars will be here forever. They can't crush it. They can't destroy it because the audience continues to support it, because the audience continues to believe in it, because the audience keeps it alive by doing things like going to InfoWarsStore.com and supporting it in any and every possible way they can. They cannot crush the American dream, and they cannot crush American liberty because it lives in the hearts and souls and minds of everyday Americans. And that's the great resistance against this elite effort to co-opt and coerce a different sort of behavior, an anti-Christian behavior, an anti-American behavior, an ideal system that is anti-little d democratic at its heart and its soul. And that's why it's so critical that InfoWars does what it does and the audience does what it does, because it is the tip of the spear for keeping America and Americana alive today.
Well, you know, Castro and all these other Democrats, they work for foreign powers. They work for multinational corporations that set up the euro, that set up the North American Union. They want to conquer countries. And they learn we can't do it with tanks. We do it politically. We undermine the nation. We teach a large group of people to hate the country they live in and to identify with the communist Chinese.
They identify with the communist Chinese, but they also identify with the communists in South America, like, for example, some of them have even glorified Maduro, who is still in charge of Venezuela, by the way, and who hasn't been let's say, put aside because he's protected by Pope Francis and by Russia. So this gives you an idea of who is behind the scenes defending these globalist stooges of the left. So I think that a guy like Castro should be ashamed for what he said, but he doesn't have any sense of shame. That's the problem with left-wingers. They are just adamant in going and pursuing this anti-American ideology.
And, of course, you've got this Castro guy who served in the Obama administration running for president. There's his bio right there on screen. Let's play that clip I mentioned earlier, or I'll give you time. Just give me a thumbs up when you got it. he came out, because I don't want to just mention this. I want to play it. We're going to talk about it. He said that, oh, we don't just want women to have the right to abortion. We want trans men to have the right to have abortions. So a man doesn't have a uterus. But he wants to make you accept this, and the crowd goes, woo! I mean, this is exciting. Here it is.
To universal health care.
Secretary Castro, this one is for you. All of you on stage support a woman's right to an abortion. You all support some version of a government health care option. Would your plan cover abortion, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, it would. I don't believe only in reproductive freedom. I believe in reproductive justice.
Justice, kill that baby.
What that means is that just because a woman, or let's also not forget, someone in the trans community, a trans female, is poor, doesn't mean they shouldn't have exercise that right to choose. And so I absolutely would cover the right to have an abortion. More than that, everybody in this crowd and watching at home knows that in our country today, a person's right to choose is under assault in places like Missouri, in Alabama.
Oh, let's stop right there. By the way, we didn't edit that. That's a computer glitch. We're going to re-download that clip. We're going to re-download it because everybody know we didn't edit that. He actually said a trans man has a right to abortion.
Well, I'm still recovering from that. That evening when I saw this scene, and I wrote it the day after on my social media, I mean, it's unheard of. I mean, he must be into some twilight zone where men are capable of giving birth. But actually, they are pushing that agenda.
Well, it's an overthrow reality. Let's come back and finish with both you guys, and Paul Joseph Watson takes over. Stay with us. Robert Barnes earlier brought this up. We see the same thing with Europe. Giant migrant camps everywhere. Up to 90% of people 5 years later don't have jobs or homeless. Rioting, stabbing people. My own son, Rex Jones, knew some Spanish kids 3 years ago that stayed at his mother's house when he was there part-time from Spain who were exchange students. And his friend that he still talks to on the internet every week is in the hospital fighting for his life in Madrid, stabbed by a North African migrant for no reason. Stabbed a few of his other friends, just walked up to him at a bus stop, started stabbing. Of course, the police aren't even going to charge him. They said there's so many we can't stop it. They block roads, they rape, they kill. What's the larger plan? Here's an Austin newscast where they say they can sleep basically in your front yard or anywhere else except the city council building. Here it is.
Several other major cities that allow camping within city limits. In Seattle, camping is also legal except in parks. In San Francisco, an appeals court ruled last year that cities could not criminalize people for sleeping or camping in public areas if shelter isn't available. And in Portland, camping is only banned on public property and public rights-of-way.
Now we'll have to establish that the underlying conduct posed a hazard or a danger to someone before we can take any action.
As KXAN's Eugen Cho found out, that last part about camping still has many people worried.
Police Chief Brian Manley told the City Council under these new changes, if you set up a tent, say here on Congress Avenue, police cannot make you move as long as you're not blocking the public right-of-way, an entrance to a business, or as long as you're not posing safety risks to yourself or others.
This is about the next student who will be groped, followed, assaulted, or possibly murdered in the West Campus area.
We were chased. It's not pleasant to be so frightened.
Some people worry about safety and what will happen to downtown streets since people can now set up tents without getting cited. But the mayor says the city manager has been directed to come up with guidelines later this summer for safe places to camp and other solutions for homelessness. He doesn't think a tent city will be an issue in the meantime.
I just don't think we're going to see that kind of thing happen over an 8-week period of time. If it does,
look at that slime bag. Let's stop him. I want to get Zagami's quick take on this. You're going to be back on with the War Room and Owen Schroyer today.
Well, in Europe, we had this happening for years. My wife, who is here in studio, she's been harassed by North Africans for the last 10 years living in Italy all the time. I mean, I leave her in the car alone, and I go to a shop, and they will start knocking on the car. She will go on her own, and at one point they will stop her in the middle of the street. It was just, I mean, it was insane.
But they're third world. They're virtuous.
I don't care. I mean,
I'm joking. I'm saying they're dogs.
I know. And they just let them do whatever they want. It's just like insane. And
so why is the left doing it?
To destroy the very fabric of the West. To destroy our families, to incentivize the sense of isolation that brings also these people to become homeless. Because
a lot of them are from the U.S. They're all on drugs. They're all, it's a whole culture. Now, Barnes, where does this go?
Well, no place good unless the president is successful. I mean, that's why what Leo said earlier about that President Trump is the main area of resistance to this sort of globalist agenda. Now, there's been other successes politically in Italy, as he's talked about. There's been successes in the EU elections for the Brexit Party. There's been successes in Brexit itself. But you see all the resistance that's been done. I mean, the UK cannot put into place the Brexit referendum that the population in the biggest referendum turnout in UK history said to do. So the president himself is having to fight his own internal people and the deep state apparatus that continues to try to throw up obstacles. So that's why it's critical that people stay active, people stay involved, people support independent free press like this network, support the president's efforts, because that is the bulwark against these assaults and attacks from the global elites and the political establishment that wants to end the mere idea of nationhood and undermine the mere ideal of Christianity by attacking our very history that the president so successfully celebrated yesterday.
Well said, Barnes. Well said, Leo Zagami of leozagami.com. You're going to be on the War Room coming up.